Hey guys, what up? Total Control 871. Yes, I know. Where the hell have I been? A lot of stuff going on. I guess I'll start with probably why I've been off air a little longer than normal. I had an extremely bad abscess tooth, lower molar all the way in the back. I mean, the very last tooth, right where the jaw hinges. I can't begin to tell you how bad this abscess was. I cracked this tooth. It's like cracked all the way down. October last year, not this year, last year. I knew then that it would eventually have to come out, but no insurance. This past September of this year, it became an issue. I went to see the dentist. I put together $90 out of my own pocket to go see the dentist. I got a script for amoxicillin and something called tramadol for pain. There's a lot more that I really want to get into here. Probably, but it won't be this episode. I am here to report to you that I am the latest victim of the opioid crisis. Excuse me, fish out one of these halls before I hack you guys to death. My cough has been getting a little bit better now that I'm out of the woods and whatnot. So I'm the latest victim of the opioid crisis. What does that mean? Um, just like that old 80s or was it 90s PSA, the she does a take on the brain on drugs frying pan egg thing, and she goes to hold on a second, that was a text message and I don't get very often of those. Just want to make sure nobody's not in I always worry about my sister, I just want to make sure she's okay. Hold on. Everything's okay. That was actually my social worker. Talked about that tonight too, about one of the reasons that he's reached out to me. Um what was I saying? Yes, victim of the opioid crisis. Um that old 80s, what is it? First there was this is your brain on drugs, they fry the egg. And then the woman, she does the this is your family on drugs. So she takes a cast iron skillet and smashes the kitchen all to hell. It's a very apt analogy, very apt indeed. Opioids, they do more damage, far more damage. The scope of their damage, their blast zone, so to speak, it goes far beyond just the drug addict themselves. Um, it also includes other people. They drag other people into it, whether willingly or unwillingly. So you may be asking, well, how in the world did you become the latest victim of the opioid crisis if you yourself are not addicted? I found that out when I went to the ER room a couple weeks ago for this really bad cracked abscess tooth. Really bad. Um, I put out an emergency SOS to a buddy of mine, and I'm telling you, man, it was a crapshoot because this guy, he not only does he work, he has his own health issues, and I just simply sent out an emergency SOS. Hold on, I'll show it to you. So there you have it. That's me texting him, sending out my emergency SOS, and yeah. That really goes to show you just how much pain I was in. You guys know I am not a sappy, weepy, sentimental kind of guy, but dental torture, it will humble you like you would not believe. And yeah, it was dental torture. So my buddy, he works, he's married. Um, it's a crapshoot. I just figured I'd just toss it out there. I figured it might be around the time that he was getting off work. Eventually, he came by, scooped me up, and took me to the ER room. I thought that I would be on safe ground. I understand the opioid crisis. We'll talk more about it in the opioid episode that I'm going to do. But I just thought that I would be on safe ground, presenting to a doctor with very, very clear and distinct symptoms of excruciating pain. You can see the back of my throat, even though my mouth was open, it looked like it was just gum, cheek, everything was just swollen up around the tooth where you really couldn't see. It was very, very bad, excruciatingly painful. Um, Originally, I told the physician assistants, I saw the dentist. This is what he gave me. I ran out of he gave me the tramadol in first week September. So as you saw that's when it runs out on me. At the end of November. Actually, I had run out maybe about a week prior to that emergency text. Because me, I'm just reaching for where is it here? You know, I'm popping the over the counter stuff like crazy. Anyway, the long story short, it was a medical negligence. They sent me home with nothing. They sent me home with amoxicillin, which is correct, but they didn't send me home with any strong pain medication, and this was specifically because of the opioid crisis. What I'm trying to tell you is that people are now being left to languish in pain, especially black people. And that's where things really get even more dicey when you start talking about this issue of opioids, pain, and race. Opioids, pain, and race. We'll save it for another episode. Wanda Sykes just did she just her double mastectomy, I believe it was. I thought it was a hysterectomy, but it's a double mastectomy. She put it in her stand-up routine how she was sent home with ibuprofen, just suffer. Um, Black people for decades have been underprescribed. White people were overprescribed. Black people have been left to languish in pain. My case was not isolated. This is just a thing. And on my medical paperwork, I'll show you because we're going to do another episode. It says that it lists me as homeless. So they see homeless, they see do-rag, they see I was in my frumpy dumpy hoodie. I got my cycle kit on today. I'm about to go out tonight and upload this. So their stereotype. Something told me to activate the voice recorder, and I did. And yes, I've got the recording, about a half hour of it, where Dr. Gerald Pinkerton, I have him admitting that he is curtailing pain management because of an opioid crisis. So because of a crisis, a demographic, he's not going to do correct medicine. And because I get it, I understand there's a crisis, but you cannot have your your patients languishing in pain. There's more to this whole thing, but it's like it makes me worry. Are we ambling toward a future? Like, who remembers the movie Glory? Opening scene, Civil War, morphine in extremely short supply. They'd give you a few shots of booze and strap you down, and they brought out the hacksaw and started sawing off limbs that had become gangrenous from gunshot wounds. Whomever the actor was, the young actor, the blood, it was. I don't unnerve easily. I've got a pretty good constitution here, but the scene, it's very, very difficult to watch, or might be better to say listen to. It is blood curdling screams like you would not believe, and he is begging and pleading, and whew, oh my God, it's like I feel like I've got PTSD from the Civil War. A war that took place hundreds of years before I was even born. But yeah, kudos to the actor. Are we returning to this future all because white people couldn't handle their opioids? I tried my best when I was speaking with the physician's legal department. It's not that I'm saying black people can't become opioid addicts. Three of the world's biggest opioid addicts were black. Miles Davis, Billy D, Ray Charles. It's the ratio. Okay, for every one black heroin or opioid addict, you've got 20 white. Don't ask me why. I really don't know why. Um, anyway, we'll put a pin in that and move on. What do I want to talk about tonight? How much time have I got left after I went through all that 10, 11 minutes? I want to talk about our next horseman of homelessness, our second horseman of homelessness. Um, we are seeing, what was that? I was watching. Hold on, let's have a look.
And growing up, it was drilled into our heads. You gotta go to college if you want a middle-class job. And we even tell kids today, look, if you don't go to college, you might as well get a face tattoo. And then they point to Post Malone, and we're like, okay, that's one guy. He's a very popular musician. But it's true, 2/3 of all jobs in America require at least some college. This is the standard now. And that wasn't the case when most members of this committee were in school. And you paid far less for your degrees. That's not speculation. We looked up where the 60 members of this committee went to college and what your school's tuition was at that time. Even adjusting for inflation, college cost way less across the board. Chairwoman Maxine Waters, your tuition at Cal State LA in 1971 was the equivalent of about $1,000 a year. Today, Cal State costs well over $6,000. That's more than a 500% jump. Congressman King, right? In 1965, Congressman King paid the equivalent of almost $10,000 a year at St. Francis College. Today, St. Francis costs over $25,000. On average, this entire committee graduated from college 33 years ago and paid an inflation-adjusted tuition of $11,690 a year. Today, the average tuition at all of your same schools is almost $25,000. That's a 110% increase over a period of time when wages have gone up only 16%.
We're here in the San Fernando Valley. You're homeless. Tell me about it.
Well, I lost my business back in 2008, and my home, everything went out. I put myself out to try to do good, and have a good business, and put all the money into that, and just kind of backfired on us, I had a partner up there in Seattle, and we had a good business going, and we owed a lot of bills, and we had some contractors not pay us, and that was the end of that. We get to owing so much money that you can't pay it, and so it's in its bankruptcy, Started struggling from that. Worked some odd jobs. Can't get an interview to in my field of work, which is concrete. I have a lot of knowledge. Did it for 42 years, and I can't get a job anywhere. I can't even get to talk to somebody that owns a company anymore. Everything's done electronically, and I don't get called for interviews, and that's the way it's been going for the last 10 years, and it just, now I'm at an age where I can't do the work anymore. My body's worn out, and pretty much not of any help to anybody.
I've been really struggling with this second horseman of homelessness, society. The second horseman of homelessness, it wipes out so many. It really is the largest of the horsemen. It's what brought me into homelessness. All right, so we saw Hassan Minhaj addressing Congress over the expense, over the cost associated with acquiring this middle class life. Basic home. Hassan Minaj did not address Congress because he felt that today's youth were being denied a chance at opulence. You know, no, that is not it. The up and coming generations are losing out. We've already heard about it. The disparity between the baby boomers and their children. Children are not making as much as their parents. Job security is a thing of the past. We're hearing about birth rates plummeting. And I'm sorry, I guess that's a good thing. I don't know. Maybe that is why the immigration topic is such a hot button, because people are not having children deliberately because it's just so fucking expensive to have a middle class life. Um, you can talk about alternative ways of living. Unfortunately, powers that be are heading that off. The tiny house movement has been completely co-opted, gentrified. It's a thing of status now, to show how woke you are. Your carbon footprint. Ooh. It's tiny houses are now playthings of Silicon Valley employees. Um, and of course, that unfortunately completely misses the target of who needed those tiny houses most. People like me. Um, we saw how Hassan Minaj basically described to you cost of living, cost of acquiring the ability to have a decent middle class life. We see from Invisible People, that was Mark, one of the latest interviews that Invisible People did. It was an excellent interview. I'm going to link it down below. Please go over and view the whole thing. Um, what's so important about Mark's story is that, how can I say this? And this is just my observation. It's like a type of, you if you should ever lose your grip on the big spinning wheel of life and go flinging off, from that unexpected expense, when life throws so many things at you, because the second horseman comes with four riders, so to speak, or maybe the four hooves of the second horseman. That would be disability, divorce, downsizing, death. As God is my witness, take your time. Just, if you got time to kill, check out the Invisible People's library, and just start listening to their stories. Whether it's Invisible People or maybe some other homeless vlogger, homeless in Titusville, whomever, when you start listening to their stories, and this is why I don't quite get why our think tanks, from our 1994 think tanks, they sit there in their little Oxford jackets and their, what is he, has his glasses up over his head? What is it about these homeless people? By Job. Hey, I'm just some homeless dude myself. I can tell you more about it than these fucking eggheads. Death, disability, downsizing, and divorce. It's just, those are always associated with our second horseman of homelessness. Matter of fact, what was it? There was, and when I just did a comb through the latest homeless video. There's a young woman. She's being kept in a hotel room in New York. She's there with her husband. I don't know if it's a real husband or not, but the point is that she's got some kids, and she said that she was that she wasn't going to accept her housing voucher. So I write her a reply to her channel. She's got her own little homeless channel. It's her channel. So I just chime in with my own advice. I tell her, number one, do not turn down your housing voucher. Those things are incredibly rare to get. Because she's talking about it's New York. They'll put her in a shithole slum. Okay, you know what? I get it. Okay, I get what you're saying. I don't want to, I don't want to live in those parts of New York. I don't want to live in Camden. I don't want to live in the Kensington section of Philadelphia, Strawberry Mansion. Oh, okay, you know what? I get it. Nevertheless, do not turn down your housing voucher. Okay. Housing is extremely difficult to get, and it is very much indeed like a lottery. Okay. She was talking about, well, me and my husband, we're going to go to Pennsylvania, and there's supposed to be a job there. And I say to her, well, you know what? Let husband go by himself. You go, you travel, you vet. Is it a real job? Is it a real job offer? Is the job offer permanent? What kind of money is going to get brought in from this job, Because I don't even know if he has a work history where he can file for unemployment. It sounds like he doesn't. Get that apartment up and running. And you know what? He'll be able to do that a hell of a lot quicker with only one mouth to feed. Okay, so you stay here in New York with the kids, utilizing your housing voucher. Hubby can go and get a much better home together and then work with your nonprofit. Maybe your nonprofit can work with Pennsylvania's nonprofit. That, hubby's working on a better life. And, once they see that you're trying to do something for yourself, a whole lot more is going to get done for you. So, anyway. So, our second horseman of homelessness. Do not underestimate it. It's terrible. We see Mark. Looks like a good guy. I don't know his whole story, and you guys know I don't put halos over homeless people's head. I don't know his complete story. All we know is that snippet of what he shared there. But the point is that if life throws you a debilitating, if one of the four hooves of the horseman, of the second horseman, were to strike you in your head, that's it. It's so easy to get trampled by those four hooves of the second horseman. People get divorced and everything just goes to shit. Somebody dies. That was the primary. You guys know what I'm saying. Disability. That's what happened to me. You become disabled, and you don't even necessarily have to be disabled, because it's disability and age kind of go hand in hand. Now, while true, Mark isn't he isn't quite, although I don't know anything about his physicality, he isn't quite he isn't quite what's that, Sonny? I understand that he's not quite there yet, but Mark spoke a very valid thing that is not being discussed in the homelessness issue. When you get middle-aged, and if you do receive that debilitating blow, and that coupled with the fact of how long it can take for social services to come for you, okay? Social services, they're calibrated in such a way where they like to let you languish, and they're hoping that you'll get on your feet on your own and not have to take resources from them. I can understand where they're coming from. I can understand where you're coming from. Unfortunately, that particular model means that there are going to be people who get kicked into homelessness by our second horseman, by one of its four hooves, one or more of the four hooves. And because you're so newly minted homeless, nonprofits and social services aren't really going to want too much to do with you. Um, and unfortunately, the longer you're there languishing, returning, because remember now, whether it's Ben Carson or Bales, Pastor Bales, or the governor, Governor Abbott, down in Texas, California's governor, whomever it is, okay? They're always talking about, oh, this is just temporary. It's temporary, and we're going to get you transitioned back into mainstream society. Mainstream society doesn't want us by then. We are chewed up, masticated, just completely worthless in their eyes. In their eyes. Check my time. 26. Yeah, mainstream society doesn't want us back. And especially this whole new Generation Z thing. I've even heard some of the millennials complain about Generation Z, about how age oriented they are. People who are in their mid 30s are seen as, people in early to mid 30s are being called boomer. You know, that okay boomer shit. They're being called that. If you're not if you're not the fresh, the new, the latest, the greatest operating software, if you can call a human being operating software, then you're basically you're of no use to them. So when people lose their, their what you call it, it's like I'd love to be able to talk. I don't know if I got enough time right now, but whenever I think about that whole age thing, I start thinking about my Republican couple that I used to rent with. Republican wife. I know you watch. Um, Republican wife is an incredibly intelligent woman, like spooky intelligent. I could talk more about that, but I'm running short on time here. She's very and very educated. She's got some very impressive college credentials. Uh, it's been a while since I've spoke with them. It's been years. Maybe about 7 or 8 years. Point is, because she chose to leave work to be a full-time stay-at-home mom. Very amicable, very noble, a very hard job to do. And were she to re-enter the work market after almost 10 years away, how easy would it be for her? You know, and I say this, I shudder to say it out loud because it's such a spooky thing. My Republican buddy, he had a Nissan van, and basically the wheel snapped at the axle. We're not talking about a flat tire. We're not talking about a blowout. The fucking assemblage. And what was so spooky is that it snapped when he backed out of the driveway and was about to go on his way to work. And to get to work, he had to take the parkway. If you're not doing 80 miles an hour on the parkway, you might as well be standing still. It was very unnerving for the entire family to know how close he came. The point that I say when I reference all that is that our four horsemen, death. With him being the primary breadwinner, with her having 2 children, one with special needs. Huh? Starting to sound familiar, isn't it? Starting to sound, if you've listened to enough homeless people's stories, then what I'm saying right now, it starts to sound awfully familiar. There's a lot of homeless people out there that, as I describe this this scenario of what if he ended up being killed on his way to work in that kind of a accident. They start nodding their head. That's exactly how it happens. See, homelessness, the monster that it is, it can come for you. It can come for you and it can destroy you. And you don't. She's not a drug addict. She is a God-fearing, upstanding woman, staunch Republican. Okay. I don't know if she voted for Trump. I'd like to think that she didn't. But the point is that you don't have to be any of the stereotypes that are associated with homeless people for it to happen to you. Now, like I said, thank God. Check my time here. 30. Yeah, I'll close it out with this thought. They ended up. It was so unnerving what happened. They took out $1 million life insurance policy. I know it's like that can be a tricky thing in these days. Ooh, spouses killing each other, but no. Seriously, that's why. Anyway, so our second horseman of homelessness. There's going to have to be a part 2 to it too, because there just simply wasn't enough time here. Please, people, please try to remember, you don't have to be a self-destructive, self-sabotaging person for homelessness to happen to you. It can happen to anybody. It has happened to anybody and everybody. All right, guys, that's it for now. Total Control 871.